twins, what are the best switches you've pulled? I once dated a woman with a twin. I don't know why, but they got it in their mind that they'd switch places, so I'd end up having sex unknowingly with her twin. So one night, I'm already in bed, and she turns out the light to make it harder for me to realize their trick, and makes up some last second excuse to leave the room. A minute or two later I hear what I assumed was her coming back into the room and climbing in bed beside me. I'm horny as hell and slide over next to my bedmate and we start making out. We ended up having some mind-blowing sex. It was incredible. I've never gotten such passion from my girlfriend. At some point in the night they'd switched back, so when I woke up my girlfriend smiled at me and asked me if I'd enjoyed our sex. I explained to her I'd been onto them the whole time and that I knew it wasn't her from the very start. She looked at me shocked and asked how I'd known. I said, "Your hands are smaller than his." I met my husband because I was mistaken for my identical twin. I had been pining away for this guy. Both my mother and my sister had met him and kept joking about how they had found the one for me. My sister, being a super cool heartbreaker of a lesbian, befriended him at our favorite coffee shop. They had collaborated at crosswords a few times and one day, he walked in while I was reading by myself. He came over and started chatting with me. Most jaw-droppingly handsome man I had ever met, and he was talking to me like we were the best of friends. I realized he thought I was my twin and played along. About half an hour later, he realized he'd been had. Still, it worked. On April Fool's Day one year my twin sister and I switched places in class. Since I never broke the rules I was terrified. But we pulled it off just fine and none of our teachers noticed. Then during lunch my name came over the loudspeaker and I was called to the principal's office. She told me she found out that we switched spots and that I was going to be suspended. Of course I freaked out and started bawling. Only then did my twin come out from the other room and say April Fools. Her and the principal set me up. I think the funniest twin switch that happened to me recently was when I visited my sister's house. We are sisters, probably identical, with slight visual differences and nearly identical voices and mannerisms. She's got 4 cats, 3 of which are kittens from the same litter. They're all varying levels of people shy, because they're used to only being around her, but most of them like me too. She has one cat, Mobby, who is the shyest. But I was hanging out at her house all day on the couch, and he managed to come out of hiding and socialize a bit. When she's alone, she usually watches movies on the couch with a blanket, but that day, while we are watching a movie, I sat on her couch with a throw blanket over my legs, and she sat on the lover seat. We are watching this movie, and Mobby jumps up on the couch, and snuggles in on my blanketed legs, and dozes off. Or what? He stays there for about an hour. Anyway, the movie ends and we start chatting, and Mobby the cat's chilled out on my legs. I said something funny, and my sister laughs. Mobby hears her laugh and looks in her direction, sees her sitting on the lover seat, and does the classic double take. You can just see his cat thought balloon say, "Wait, if she's over there, whose legs am I sitting on?" He jumped up super fast and stared directly into my face with this horrified, confused cat expression. "Who are you?" Then he ran off and hid under the dryer, all traumatized by his accidental snuggling with the wrong twin. He still runs off when he hears me. We switched class. I was sitting in his, he was sitting in mine. Our teachers didn't notice the swap, but we aren't even twins. Just Asians. That was kinda sad. I'm not a twin myself, but have witnessed a phenomenal switcheroo by my 6th grade geography teacher. This guy, we'll call him Mr. F, was one of my favorite teachers that year. Nice, funny, and made geography fun. However, some days he just seemed off his game. He would kind of keep quiet and give us busy work to complete while he would sit at his desk and read. No big deal. Everyone has good days and bad days. On one of these off days, Mr. F wrote our assignment for the day on the board. Problem was, it was written in almost illegible cursive. One of the more observant students asked why he wrote it like that when he usually writes in neat, all capital letters. He made some excuse, but he just really didn't seem like himself. Finally, someone remembered Mr. F telling us he had an identical twin brother, and the class went nuts. We kept hounding him the entire class asking if he was really our teacher, and all he would say is I am Mr. F. He tried so hard not to blow his cover, but when he couldn't answer questions about things we discussed in class the previous week, we knew the truth. When the real Mr. F came back the next day, he tried to play coy about it all. I learned a few years later that his twin brother actually was a certified substitute teacher for the county, thus confirming our suspicions. To this day, I still don't know how many times the imposter was teaching my class. I'm fraternal, so even though this isn't a switch, we have had our fun. My twin sister and I used to get asked all the time if we could read one another's minds. By the time we got to high school and people were still asking, we decided to mess with them a bit. We both know the alphabet and sign language. We'd make sure we were sitting in a position that allowed us to see one another's hands, but the inquiring party could not. Let's say the person that asked us told me to think to my sister the word balloon. We would shut our eyes tightly and put our fingers to our temples, as if transmitting the word through telepathy. While they were watching our faces, we would sneakily open our eyes just enough to see what the other person was signing. I would start signing out BOLLOON and my sister would say things like, I feel like your word begins with a B, maybe it's battery? No, it's more like a ball. Finally the whole word came across and she would say with confidence that, oh, I believe your word is balloon. Is that correct? Then the person would be amazed, and we were somewhat proud of reinforcing their stupidity. This happened more often than I would like to admit. Well, recently, I had this speech class at college and I wrote it on twins. I had my identical twin sister dress as me and present the opening to my speech, pretending to be me. Then I walked in and finished the presentation. The look on everyone's faces. Not exactly a switch, but along the lines of, my brother and I, identical, loved pulling off switches and things, but our best one was in 7th grade. Note, we went to an alternative school that was attached to an elementary school, so there was only one class of grade 7s, and the 3 classrooms we had were on the top floor. It was our first day, and nobody at the school knew us yet. We decided to dress exactly identical, and as we were walking into the schoolyard, he walked over to the group of other students. I turned around and entered the school through the back door. I then walked into the basement and hid behind a garbage can at the bottom step of the staircase that conjoined with the staircase that led up to our classroom. When the other students started walking towards the door, my brother says, extra loud, so I can hear, he left his backpack at the other side of the schoolyard. So he ran over to get it, going behind a tree and out of sight. The second they can't see him, but still watching where he disappeared, I burst out of the front door, out of breath and holding an identical backpack. The looks I saw that day were hilarious. When we were in high school, we had teachers who also happened to be identical twins. One taught math and the other one art. Very different, I know. During our junior year, my brother was failing trig, and I told him I would help him out. We switched classes for the day, and I took his exam. Literally no one knew what we were doing, or so we thought. At the beginning of next week I was in my math class, and the teacher handed back my brother's exam to me, and said nice work. I continued the ruse, and told him it was my brother's, and not my exam. He called bullsh. After class I asked him what was going on, and all he said was I'm a twin too. So I guess it wasn't exactly one of the best switches. My cousins are identical, right to the way their hair lies. Well, they were kind of stirrers as young adults, and got refused entry to a club in Manchester, UK. They were pissed off, and twin 1 smashed up the bouncer's car before the police arrived, and he was arrested. Cut to the trial. Twin 1 is in the dock, and twin 2 is in the viewing gallery. The convo goes like so. Lawyer, is this the man you saw vandalize your vehicle? Bouncer, yes, it was him. Lawyer, so it wasn't his brother, sat over there, in the gallery? The bouncer could not identify with certainty who it was that committed the vandalism, so my cousin got off with it as they obviously can't convict the wrong man. They were always doing sh like that. Before I left for college, my sister, best friend, and I decided we wanted one more camping trip. My sister was driving a car that had no insurance, plates from a different vehicle, and she did not have a license or permit. I had gotten mine so recently that I still had the paper version. In Colorado they mail the plastic one with the picture instead if printing it right away. She was also speeding. She got pulled over. We switched wallets, signed each other's names on the paperwork, and the car got impounded. The next day, she registered and insured the car, and got it out of impound with money I loaned her. Then we went to the DMV to get a license. Here's where shit gets good. My sister needed glasses at the time, but did not have them. In Colorado, you have to pass an eye test to get your driver's permit. I had 20/20 vision. I went through the line and did the eye test for her. I did not realize that at the end of the line, they take your effine fingerprints with a computer that matches your fingerprints with the ones on file. Here's how that went down. DMV lady, put your finger in there one more time. It didn't work. I'm supposed to call my manager, but let's just try it again. Me, I do it again. Okay, that time it worked. What? My sister and I go across the street to a Jamba Juice or something. We switch clothes. She goes back, does the driving test, takes another picture for the license, gives her fingerprint, and we go on our way. I think she still has the permit with my picture on it. BO's me big. Federal fraud and impersonation.